Welcome to my kitchen counter. It is a very wintry day, and we're going to talk about forgiveness versus trust. I have a lot of women say, how can I ever trust my husband again? And they ask me how I have gotten through that really difficult transition stage in our marriage. I will be honest and say I'm not through it. And it reminds me of a man who came up to me after a big presentation that we did a few months ago and waited and waited to talk to me, and he said, "Do you totally trust your husband?" Well, I knew why he was asking that, because he'd heard our story. My husband had not been trustworthy ever since I'd met him, and even before. He hadn't told me, even when I became acquainted with him and we decided to get married, he didn't tell me that he had had a serious pornography and sexual addiction problem. But he thought and hoped that it was under control before we got married. And so that's why he didn't tell me. But it was obviously not under control. So this man was asking me, after 35 years of marriage and multiple betrayals, and if you've seen my story, then you know, and I don't have to go into it anymore, how could I trust someone who was not trustworthy, who had betrayed me so many times? And that was really, I've been asked that question several times, and then I say, I don't totally trust him. The reality is that I don't totally trust the addiction. My husband is a good man, and I know that, and I've known it all along, but he has an addiction. And he has used pornography and sexual behavior to medicate his boredom, his loneliness, his stress, and because of that, I've been betrayed. So, how do I trust him? Well, I trust him when I see trustworthy behavior. Trust is earned. It's not just given automatically, especially in a marriage. We commit to each other to be true, and in my belief, it's a monogamous relationship. And so how do I trust someone who has not been true, has betrayed me multiple times? That's a challenge. So the way that I've been learning to trust him is I look for trustworthy behavior. And trustworthy behavior is honesty. For so many years he lied when he was going about with his sexual behavior that was outside of our marriage. He lied and he would hide, and I'm no longer safe with that. Well, I wasn't safe with it then, so I've never been safe with that. But even when I didn't know that he was lying, it was not right, of course. So trustworthy behavior looks like honesty, accountability. It looks like kind and patient. It looks like being considerate of my feelings. Untrustworthy behavior, on the other hand, looks like, for my husband, detachment, perhaps some blaming, for some men, a lot of anger, and there's just this feeling that something's not right. And so I've learned to look for trustworthy behavior, and then I can say, I'm not going to ask him whether he's telling me the truth or not, because Could I trust that in the past? I could not. So now I can say, what does it feel like and what does it look like? And trust my gut. You've heard that word before. It's my instinct. But trusting my gut is really trusting myself and trusting God to give me an answer for what's really going on here. He says he's good. He says he's being honest. But something doesn't feel right. And then I can say, is he walking the walk? Or is he just talking the talk? Thankfully, he has been working one day at a time to win my heart, which is a really tender thing, by actually showing trustworthy behavior, by being honest, by being accountable, by being considerate and kind towards me. I am not always worthy of being kind, perhaps. No, that's not true. Everybody should have kindness shown towards them. But I'm often at fault. I know that. But he has learned to be more engaged in our relationship. And that is trustworthy behavior. Now, forgiveness, I'm going to talk a little bit about the difference. Forgiveness is what I say is a gift to myself. When someone has been betrayed so badly, and many of us have been, for different reasons, how do we live our life with any sense of peace? It is only through the gift of forgiveness. And the ability to forgive is God-given. It's a gift from God. And you will hear me say multiple times in these videos that the basis of recovery from any trauma, like what I have been through, and perhaps what you've been through, is a spiritual connection with God. It's not religious. It is a spiritual connection with a higher power that I know cares for me and can help me get through things that I could never do by myself. One of those things is to forgive someone who has so severely betrayed me. And so forgiveness is a gift I give myself, and I leave my heart open for that opportunity. It's not easily done. You don't find out one day that your husband's had an affair or been betraying you for years, and then next week you say, oh, and I forgive you. That is usually not the way it happens. Perhaps it could happen for some. It's not the way it happened for me. I went to God and I asked, how do I forgive and how do I find peace in my life? And He has helped me. He's helped me to find that peace, that serenity that I desire, because I do not want to carry around bitterness. Because bitterness eats me up from the inside, and that's not who I want to be. I do not want to be a bitter woman. I want to be a woman filled with love and compassion and have a tender heart. And carrying around bitterness is contrary to having that kind of a vulnerability even. So forgiveness is a critical piece in my recovery. But it doesn't have anything to do with saying, I'm not saying to my husband, I forgive you and trust you at the same time. That's not what it is. It's between me and God that He's blessed me with this gift of forgiveness. Now, trust is different. And my husband's working on being trustworthy so that I can trust him and feel safe. So these two things, forgiveness and trust, are very, very different in my mind. And I was really interested in finding therapists and specialists in this area who said that forgiveness too quickly given can actually harm the relationship. When I read that, and you can find that the references and resources in my book, I knew that was truth, because I have been through that, where I just thought I need to just forgive and move on and trust that he's okay now. When I understood what the addiction is and how it makes a person act, and that it truly is an addiction, then I understood that I was not doing myself or my husband a favor by immediately saying, I trust you. That actually for him would be enabling, and would not feel true to myself. These are big challenges when we've been betrayed, and it takes time, it takes effort, and for me it's taken a lot of going to God for answers, and sometimes the answers didn't even come very quick. I would have to go to him and just ask for peace, and he has been willing to, and he's always been there to give it to me if I'm willing. He's always there if I'm willing. And we can talk another day about willingness.